MTA to Reading Comprehension of Social Studies Texts and Documents. Number 1 is SQ3R. SQ3R or SQRRR is a reading comprehension method named for its 5 steps: survey, question, read, recite, and review. It is a way to read academic materials such as textbooks, articles, research studies, or manuals that can increase comprehension and improve the ability to recall it. A description of each step is discussed below. Survey: a quick preview or overview of an entire textbook or a single chapter. It is mainly carried out before memorizing or understanding the concepts. This process takes about a couple of minutes and involves looking at the title, seeing the entire chapter, the headings, and subchapters. It helps students identify certain important ideas from the chapters and the lessons. Question: it is about asking questions related to the chapter. This process generally takes about 40 seconds and helps the reader understand that asking questions and seeking answers immediately will help retain ideas that the chapter contains. It helps the readers engage and concentrate on what he or she is reading. Read: this is necessary because reading automatically makes the reader understand the chapter better and in an effective manner, enabling him or her to retain it for a long time to come. It is very necessary that the reader properly understand the chapters and subchapters. This needs immense concentration. Recite: this is important to understand what one is studying. This should take no longer than 5 minutes depending on the length of the chapter. It is also important that the recitation is in their own words and not word-to-word repetition from the book. Understanding and repeating in own words make the concepts clearer than simply memorizing the pattern of the book chapters or the language that is used in the respective books. Review: this is about reviewing the chapters learned using the above-mentioned steps. After reviewing, one can try to recall or remember what one has learned. The more the students can remember, the greater and effective the study rate. Francis F. Robinson developed SQ3R during World War II to help military personnel and soldiers from a U.S. Army unit enrolled in an accelerated academic program at the university to learn complex material quickly. Robinson inferred that students could benefit from study skill instruction stressing higher level work habits. In 1950, he acknowledged that early work in scientific management formed the basic theoretical groundwork for SQ3R. Yet, it was ultimately Robert Seizur's work in 1939 that prompted him to design a higher-level study skill system. Seizur felt the work method selected by a person, or the qualitative variations of reacting to a situation, was an additional variable to consider apart from the traditional biological and prior training factors that influence individual differences in human performance. Seizur suggested that pupils might be unaware of the smaller steps of his work method because of the inclusive nature of the larger cognitive task. Moreover, to Seizur, the preliminary adoption of work methods could be discarded in favor of others, and the final work method could be refined by such processes as the overlapping of component parts and the development of higher units. Seizur believed that work methods were important in determining individual differences in sensory, affective, intellectual, and motor activities. He warned that simply to control the amount of training for a particular task and attribute all other results to biological capacities was overlooking what is often the unknown factor, the work method. He emphasized not so much what you are born with as what you do with it. Robinson drew upon these ideas and designs an optimum higher level work method for textbook reading. SQ3R provided students with a systematic approach for studying a textbook, which capitalizes on the predictable format in most traditional content textbooks. Examples are the title, introduction, headings, subheadings, conclusion, etc. Social studies are heavily laden with content. Numerous facts, figures, characters, episodes, events, and ideas can be presented in each passage. Much of the content, including vocabulary, is new information to students. SQ3R can help students manage large amounts of new content. It defines a purpose for reading. It can assist students in organizing content and builds comprehension. It can also help students monitor their thinking and assess their own learning. The 5 steps require them to review information and create notes during their initial reading. Their notes from initial reading become their study guides. Number 2 is SRE, or Scaffolded Reading Experience. Scaffolded Reading Experience, or SRE, is a set of pre-reading, during reading, and post-reading activities specifically designed to assist a particular group of students in successfully reading, understanding, learning from, and enjoying a particular selection. Scaffolding is a metaphor to describe the type of assistance offered by a teacher or peer to support learning. These supports are gradually removed as students develop autonomous learning strategies, thus promoting their own cognitive, affective, and psychomotor learning skills and knowledge. Jerome Bruner first introduced scaffolding instruction in the late 1950s, and in 1976, he and his colleagues first used the term in its educational sense. Originally, it draws on the works of Lev Vygotsky in 1978. Though Vygotsky didn't use the term, scaffolding instruction as teaching strategy originates from his sociocultural theory and his concept of the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. The zone of proximal development is the distance between what the children can do by themselves and the next learning that they can be helped to achieve with competent assistance. The scaffolding teaching strategy provides individualized support based on the learner's ZPD. In a scaffolding instruction, a more knowledgeable other provides scaffolds or supports to facilitate the learner's development. The scaffolds facilitate a student's ability to build on prior knowledge and internalize new information. The activities provided are just beyond the level of what the learner can do alone. SRE consists of 2 components, planning and implementation. In planning, the teacher considers a particular group of students doing the reading, the text they are reading, and their purpose. The implementation phase provides a set of pre-reading, during reading, and post-reading options for those particular readers. the selection being read, and the purpose of the reading. Listed below are possible components of an SRE. Pre-reading activities prepare students to read an upcoming selection. They can serve a number of functions, including getting students interested in reading the selection and reminding them of things they already know that will help them understand and enjoy the selection. They are important because with adequate preparation, the experience of reading will be enjoyable, rewarding, and successful. Motivating activities include any activities designed to interest students in the upcoming selection and entice them to read it. Activating or building background knowledge is important to prompt the students to bring to consciousness already known information, which will be helpful in understanding the upcoming text. Providing text-specific knowledge gives students information that is contained in the reading selection itself. If the selection is difficult or densely packed with information, it would be helpful to provide students with advanced information on the content of the selection. Relating the reading to students' lives is showing to students how selection relates to them. Pre-teaching vocabulary refers to pre-teaching words that are new labels for concepts that students already knew. For instance, crimson meaning red. Pre-teaching concepts refers to pre-teaching new and potentially challenging ideas, not just new labels for ideas students already understand. Pre-questioning, predicting, and direction setting help students to focus their attention and look for what is important as they read. Such focusing is necessary because without it, students may not know what to attend to. Suggesting strategies help students to use strategies they already know. These strategies may be ones they have learned on their own or those that have been deliberately taught in the past. During reading activities include both things that students themselves do as they are reading. Silent reading gives students period of uninterrupted reading. It is based upon a single simple principle. Reading is a skill, and like all skills, the more you use it, the better you get at it. Reading to students can serve a number of functions. It can make a story or piece of exposition read aloud a pleasurable experience for many students and serves as a model of good oral reading. Reading the first chapter or the first few pages of a piece can help students into the material and also serve as an enticement to read the rest of the selection on their own. It can make difficult material accessible to students who find certain texts difficult, either because of their complex structure or difficult vocabulary. Guided reading refers to any activity that a teacher uses to focus students' attention on particular aspects of a text as they read it. It often begins as a pre-reading activity and is then carried out as students are actually reading. Oral reading by students can be helpful when the class or a group of students is studying a passage or trying to decide on alternate interpretations or on just what is and is not explicitly stated in the passage. Modifying the text is necessary to make the reading material more accessible to students. It can involve presenting the material on audio or videotapes, changing the format of a selection, simplifying a text, and shortening a text by telling students they need only certain parts of it. Modifying the text is called for in situations in which reading selections present too much of a challenge because of either the length or difficulty. Post-reading activities serve a variety of purposes. They provide opportunities for students to synthesize and organize information gleaned from the text so that they can understand and recall important points, evaluate an author's message, his or her stance in presenting the message, and the quality of the text itself, evaluate understanding of the text, respond to a text in a variety of ways, to reflect on the meaning of the text, to compare differing texts and ideas, to imagine themselves as one of the characters in the text, to synthesize information from different sources, to engage in a variety of creative activities, and to apply what they have learned with the classroom walls and in the world beyond the classroom. Questioning activities gives the teacher an opportunity to encourage and promote higher order thinking, to nudge students to interpret, analyze, and evaluate what they read. Questions can also elicit creative and personal responses. It is also a measure if the students have gained what they needed to gain from the reading. Teachers are not the only ones who should be asking questions after reading. Students can ask questions of each other, ask the teacher, and they can ask questions they plan to answer through further reading or searching other resources. For example, the internet. Discussion, whether in pairs or small group or involving the entire class should be frequently done. It gives students a chance to offer their personal interpretations and responses to a text and hear those of others. It is also a vehicle for assessing whether or not reading goals have been achieved, to evaluate what went right with the reading experience, what went wrong, and what might be done differently in the future. Writing is a task that should be used more frequently. It is a well-known fact that reading and writing are complementary activities and often to be dealt with together. It is important to be sure that students are adequately prepared for writing. This means that if students are expected to write about a selection, the teacher needs to be sure they have comprehended the selection well. Students can write to discover what they have comprehended in a selection or to deepen their understanding of it. Drama refers to any sort of production involving action or movement. It offers a range of opportunities for students to get actively involved in responding to what they have read. Examples of these are short plays, skits, pantomimes, and readers' theater. Artistic, graphic, and nonverbal activities include visual art, graphics, music and dance, and media productions such as videos, slideshows, and audio tapes, as well as constructive activities that a teacher might not typically think of as artistic. The most frequent activities involve creating graphics of some sort, maps, chart, trees, diagrams, schematics, and the like. Others include constructing model or bringing in artifacts that are somehow responses to the selection read. Artistic nonverbal activities are useful because they are fun, a little different from typical school tasks, and provide opportunities to students to express themselves in a variety of ways, thus creating situations in which students of varying talents and abilities can excel. Application and outreach activities include both concrete and direct applications. For instance, cooking after reading a recipe, and less direct ones. Attempting to change some aspect of student government after reading something about state government that suggests the possibility. It also includes activities that extend beyond the campus. For instance, planning a drive to collect used clothes and food after reading a news article about a flooded municipality nearby, or taking a field trip to a local art museum after reading one of the artists represented there. Building connections helps students build connections between the ideas they encounter in reading and other parts of their lives. Reteaching is done when students have not achieved the reading goals or the level of understanding necessary. The best time is usually as soon as possible, after students first encounter the material. Reteaching may consist of simply asking the students to reread parts of a selection. It may also include mini lesson on some part of the text that has caused students problems, and students who have understood a particular aspect of the text may assist other students in achieving similar understanding. Readings in the social studies embraces various forms of text. Examples are primary and secondary sources, nonfiction, fiction, poetry, and textbooks. Exposure to these various text structures provides students with multiple perspectives while enriching their understanding of people in the past. SRE can help students to capitalize on the benefit offered by the variety of text and develop historical understanding skills, the ability to evaluate, analyze, and synthesize historical evidence surrounding problems or issues that have no right or wrong answers.